It's gonna be a good one.
It'll be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Jackson and they can do to what's the hit by hit. Oh
Hey, welcome back to Baseball 101. Today we have Coach Crookes from Central Missouri, probably, arguably, well, the best baseball program in the state over the last several decades. I mean, there's been winning at Central Missouri for years and years before Coach Crookes was there, and then since then, definitely gone to another level. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going into your 11th year at Central Missouri, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, your winning percentage is decent. It's 75% of your games won. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like a down year being you win 70% of your games. That's unbelievable. So, congratulations on just the success you've had there.
I appreciate it.
And then last year, it was your second year you went to the D2 World Series?
To the final game, yes, sir.
To the final. So,
we've been in the series five of the last 10, I think.
Yeah, and there are programs within the state. Jeffco at the JUCO levels had a ton of success. Crowder, Missouri State, like there are programs consistently put out great teams. But Central Missouri, arguably, to me, as far as a program that just keeps winning and building, to me is at the top of the list. So I'm not biased. I've never been there. Don't have any kids that go there. But based on what I see here, it's impressive. So. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Hopefully people that don't know a lot about Central Missouri and the D2 level get some information, able to look at it, get to know you a little bit. I know when my son was going through the recruiting process, it's tough to really see what a coach is about because on recruiting trips, they definitely are real good about showing the side of them that kids will like. And then sometimes that version of the coach doesn't match up to the other version of who you see day one. So the more information people can see, I think is always a good thing when you're making that discussion. And not every program's the right fit for every kid, but I think Central Missouri for the right kid is a tremendous place to start and hopefully in their career. It's sad that we have to say that now, but geez, getting kids to stay around for 4 years.
It's the state of the game. I think, college athletics, not just baseball, right? But college athletics in and of itself is in a different place. And I guess I've been around long enough where this is the second cycle of this, though. When I was going to college, which, was a long time ago now, but even when I first started coaching in college, there wasn't a name for it. There wasn't a portal, but transferring happened all the time. It just wasn't as It was every bit as prevalent. Like it happened just as much. It just wasn't as publicized. So Java Chamberlain didn't end up at University of Nebraska by starting there. He started a Division II program at Kearney, and they played against him in the fall, and he ended up at University of Nebraska by no coincidence. He transferred. That kind of stuff happened all the time. Then they made a rule against it so that it shouldn't happen or couldn't happen, and or they couldn't, the upper levels couldn't pick from the lower levels, but now they've kind of, I don't know what the word is, socialized it for everyone to do everything. And I think with the advent and the growth of social media, it's taken on a life of its own in terms of how talked about it is and how prevalent it is in everybody's conversation. And I suppose the NCAA saying that, it's okay. We're encouraging the opportunity to do it, so to speak. So
it definitely, I played at JUCO. I believe you started at JUCO as well.
I did.
So, and I think junior college baseball at the time, it still is, but the freedom that JUCO gave me is why I went there. Because I could go there 1 year. If I had a good year, I could move on. If I want to go back, and that freedom was wonderful. It helped me develop and get on the field quickly, which is, I think, what every player should be looking at ahead of, look at me, I signed it, this Big Ten school or whatever school. Go where you can play, and that's, I think, getting through to kids in the last 2 years has been the toughest, having that conversation, because the last 2 years, as the roster sizes have gone down, it's the availability of D1 slots for a high school kid has definitely been shrunk. So are you seeing more kids interested in D2 with the transfer portal and NIL and everyone kind of condensing down?
You know, I think the pool of high school kids that we're pulling from has probably expanded just a bit because of the shrinking Division I rosters, and I think Division I baseball as a whole has gotten older. They, you know, that at this point in time, it's a little bit of a they cannibalize each other. You know, I think the Power Fours that have the most amount of money that they can offer can find a mid-major guy that's had success at the 4-year college level for 1, 2, 3 years, and they can pay him more and move him up. So that's part of their recruiting class, right? Is picking up a sophomore or junior or even a 5th-year senior from another Division I program even, and utilizing him in their roster. Who's a really good Division I player and who's going to go get paid to go play at a Power 4 institution that's got money to pay him. And then I think it trickles down from there. I think mid-majors can do the same with some players at other mid-major schools that are maybe offering a different opportunity, a different coaching staff, a different type of financial package. And so with the Division I schools cannibalizing each other and recruiting off of each other's roster, I do think it leaves fewer places for the high school kid to come and develop. And I think that's tough. So there's a certain level of talent that will always play. And, before we were on air, I think we were discussing, the talent that was on Titus's team, and, how many guys, were there. And those guys were impact players at their programs that they ended up going to. There's always going to be those players. And I think those guys will always be at the Power Fours, and we'll try on them. But I think there are fewer, and I think it'll continue to go this way. I think the harsh reality is if you look at rosters and ages and so on, there's fewer opportunities for guys to translate directly from high school to that Power 4 level, and even just the Division I level in general, because of how old those teams can operate within the portal. And I think that cuts down opportunities. And so, you mentioned finding the right fit. You also mentioned coaches, recruiting one way and being another way, during, once the process is over. And the whole recruiting process in general, I think is, and it always has been, about fit and about opportunity and about playing style, personality style. I think it's always been a bit of a moving target for players, for high school players and their parents. It's not a perfect science, and any head coach will tell you the same thing. We really believe in the people that we bring on campus here to play. Does that mean we're always right? No. Sometimes that process of getting the player ready to perform at the level and the standard that we expect them to is a different timeline, and we don't always get to control that. And then there are circumstances and injuries and so on that occur as well. So I think that those things have really shrunk opportunities for high school kids at the Division I level. And I'd like to say it in our program, and I can only speak for the years that I've been here, but we've really tried to stay pretty true to the model of recruiting high school kids and the best high school talent we can find and developing them here. And we try to do the same thing. And in my, I guess, kind of my view, and I know it's limited, of other Division II programs, I think that's a little unique. But we really enjoy the development process and the spending time with players and watching them grow. And I believe there's value and there's honor in having a career at an institution, and a career speaks to the day you get there to the day you leave. And, it's really hard to have a great career someplace if you leave and go to 2 or 3 different places.
Yeah.
But again, like, I'm a product of junior college, so are you mentioned, and sometimes guys aren't quite ready to jump in, or they want to create options for themselves. Your situation was probably different than mine. I didn't have a choice. It was junior college or nothing for me, and it ended up being the best thing for me. And that was out of necessity, and necessity, mother of invention, and it created opportunities for me elsewhere, and that's how my career went. But I think it's really important in this environment, and this I guess that every high school player is in to recognize accurately what the situation is. Like, you can be pretty black and white with your understanding of what the rules are, what the roster sizes are, and where people are at, and not have to pull a whole lot out of a coach in terms of what he thinks is going to happen. Because all of us, I mean, if I knew that you were going to be an All-American here your freshman year, I mean, I would tell you, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
So, do the research and leave the label and, some of the things that look good on social media or may feel good in terms of what you think is the right or cool place to go to, and really, do the research in terms of what the numbers are, what the need is, and what style of baseball there is, and do you fit? And I think a lot of those problems can be alleviated on the front end.
Absolutely. And you talked about that Royal Scout team that my son was on. Grant Hollister was on the team, and Grant, legitimately one of the better high school hitters I saw, had opportunities, went to a D1 school, coaching change, and he ends up coming back to Central Missouri, and he's done well. And that's why I think the thing, and I'm curious how you do this, but how do you sell D2 to some of these kids that they could play D1, their parents think they're D1, what's their pushback? Do they think D2 is, their perception of D2 is different, or what's the biggest pushback kids get or parents give you about, hey, it's D2, it's not D1?
Yeah, I think, you're, a recent parent of a high school graduate, and my son's a senior, but I remember going through this. I think with the way baseball is now at the high school level, with travel baseball organizations and everything else, there's an enormous investment of time and finances in a young man's career, before he gets to college. And I think there's a certain expectation, if you invest a certain amount of money in something, you want a return on that investment. I think that's the first thing. And labels are what they are. I can't change the fact that we're a Division II program, and I am super biased, but I believe in the level we're at, and I think we play an extremely high level of baseball. But I can't change that we're Division II, nor would I want to. I love the level we're at, and I think we're truly what amateur athletics is supposed to be. And I know I'm biased, but in terms of that, I think the first thing is you want to return on your investment if you're a parent, and I understand that. I think with the amount of time that you invest and the amount of energy and struggle and tournaments that you all go to, and that start on Thursday and go to Monday, who works anymore from anywhere? I don't know how. So I think there's a lot of expectations that go into that 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 year travel baseball career that guys have, that if you do all that, you probably are wanting the highest return that you can get. And I think the perceived return is Division I.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a parent just straight up tell me, well, we're not looking at Division II because it's that, we see it here. And I appreciate their willingness to not say that. Maybe they think it, I don't know. Some of them just aren't educated. They just don't know the difference between Division I and Division II. And even now, with the 34-man rosters and what teams opted in and what teams didn't, and what it means and what scholarships mean. And, so some of it's education and having a real conversation with them about it. And, and I'm sure some of there's pride and ego too. If you had a buddy on the Royal Scout team who's committed to go to Arkansas and you haven't gotten the same look, how do you feel? And there's emotions in this, and there are feelings, and, parents have them and players have them. And, you brought up Grant, and, I think the world of him. I thought the world of him when he played on that team. The best part about Grant is he treats this place the same way I do. And this place is my heaven. And I love it. And it's given me, this opportunity, and he's never treated it any differently. He's the hardest working guy we have on the field. He's taken the most swings, the most ground balls, given the most effort. And if there's anybody that has, I guess, a reason to turn his nose up at this place, maybe it would be him, because he's already been at Indiana, at a Big Ten school, and experienced, the larger Power Four conference thing, and finances, and equipment, and so on. And he hasn't treated it that way. And I think baseball, at the end of the day, is what we're all trying to do. And if you can boil it down to, getting a chance to compete at a game that we love playing, and surrounding yourself with people that you are like-minded with and doing so, you can enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it becomes about. I think Grant's done a really good job of transitioning himself into that right away. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that's more competitive than him.
Oh, and that's, I mean, for those that don't know, Grant Hollister graduated in 24. He's a 4-year starter at, oh boy, I forgot
Blue
where he was.
Springs.
Blue Springs. I'm sorry, Grant. My bad. It's been a couple years, but I mean, he was highly recruited all over nationally. Like, he had opportunities. I think it was Michigan, then Indiana. I mean, he could have gone anywhere. And
Good.
it's, again, he chose Indiana because really connected well with the coach. That coach leaves, and it just wasn't a good fit anymore, and came back to Central Missouri, had a tremendous freshman year. And that's why I think sometimes people think they only get drafted if they're D1. I mean, I don't know how many players you've had, 8 to 10 you've had in the last short time.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not that professional scouts are only looking, oh, we only take D1 kids. They're trying to find the best kid. And hopefully Grant gets that opportunity at some point because, like you were saying, he works unbelievably hard. He's a great kid. And I mean, I was getting ready to ask, but the type of kid that you look for, the attributes of a kid that fits your style of play, sure, similar to what Grant is, but when you go out to watch a kid, what are you looking for?
So I think, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And I guess I didn't really realize this, but I guess I do have a bit of a template physically that I look for. We're obviously we like to play a dynamic style of baseball here. We play in the Midwest where, the wind can affect the ball one way or another, depending on, the weather and the temperature, right? So it can be blowing hard in and make it really tough to offense that day, or they can be blowing hard out. You're going to need to do some damage in terms of fly to ball. So we like to be dynamic enough to be able to do both. So if the wind's blowing straight in, we want to be able to create offense in other ways. So we like to run, we like to move, we like to pressure the baseball. We really want to defend at a high level. So as we're on the road, looking at games and watching kids play, the dynamic ability to defend at a very high level with, and speed helps with that in terms of range, whether you're in the outfield or the infield. How your body moves as an athlete too, that allows you to defend at a high level. I think, I don't know if it's underrated or not, but I certainly look at catch play, the ability to throw the baseball in whatever condition or whatever arm angle that's required, is a necessary attribute. Again, we play in the Midwest, and there are going to be days where the wind's right in your face, and you're going to have to be able to make a throw. And there are going to be other days, that it's at your back, and you're going to have to be able to, to rein it in and still hit your target. So we really like the athlete that's dynamic, that can run, that possesses a high level of catch play ability, defensive ability. We think that also allows them to have the biggest toolbox in terms of being an offensive player. And so Grant to me, kind of falls into the high level athlete that was strong, understood the value of the weight room, and was a high effort, played with a high motor, like high energy, high running motor. And that also matches, that matches my personality, our personality. We aggressive is the word I'm going to use. We tend to be that, and we want to have players reflect that aggression. And it doesn't mean tight or like overly muscly aggression, but there's a purpose behind what we're doing. There's some intent. And, I always felt like that with Grant on the field. And, I can't tell you how many times we told him and Coach Bailey and everybody else how good a mule he would have been. And it just turned out it was a semester later than we thought it was going to be. But, I think those are the things we look for going forward. But I will say, there's that, and then there's on the mound. And, that player in baseball, I think that's the great part of this game, is that player can be 5'4", that player can be 6'4". And you can be a plus defender, and you can be a great runner, and you can have a great feel for the barrel in the zone. And like I said, your body type can kind of, be different and still do all those things. And, on the mound, we tend to like bigger guys that possess some, I don't know what the word is, but I'm going to say like resilience in their body, because it's a lot on the mound to do what we're asking them to do. And we like power. I think power pitching wins. I think every time if you want to boil it down, just watch the big leagues when it matters in the playoffs, and it's power, and it's coming at you. And That's tough. It's really tough to offense there. So
Yeah.
try to gather as much power or power potential as we can with big bodies whose arms that work, and you know, try to really refine that into, you know, a guy that can throw hard, that can throw different shapes and throw different shapes for a strike, and again carries that compete gene as well.
It's just funny. Obviously, I mean, I've been around Missouri baseball since I was a kid. So Central Missouri has always had a very distinct personality, and just listen to you talk about the type of players you're looking for, and looking to the word that always comes to mind when I think of Central Missouri is intensity. It's that, I would say, a JUCO mindset of we're going to grind it out, we're going to compete every pitch, and just that we're not backing down from anyone. We're going to come at you. And just listen to you talk about it, I'm like, yep, and there it is. I mean, it's in your DNA, and it definitely, the type of players that you get there match that. And I think when a coach understands who they are, they recruit the right kids to fit that. And that, to me, is how you win in college, is you get the kid that appreciates the coach that's going to push them. Because there's some kids, honestly, that they don't want to be pushed. They don't want to work hard. They just want to get on the field and play. And when you get to college, it is a job. There are higher expectations, and there's an investment made by that university into you. And if you're not willing to meet those expectations, then that's not the school for you. And I know you mentioned the weight room, and I've seen it over and over. When Ty went through the recruiting process, every coach was like, one of the biggest, really the biggest difference between a high school kid and then the D1 kid or D2 is the strength, just that the physicality of it. And I'm sure that you guys spend a lot of time. By the way, for those watching, if you think D2 facilities are less than a D, go to Central Missouri. To me, you have the best field and facilities in the state at the college level. Like, it's not even, to me, it's not close. Like, when I went there to watch the scout team play, I was like, holy cow, that's a beautiful facility. The locker room, the clubhouse, like it's special. So
it is. We're super blessed to have what we have. We're very lucky. And, you know, a lot of that, you know, I'm happy to talk about them, you know, is due to the support of the university and to some of our alumni. Our alumni, as you've mentioned, this place has been special for a long time. You know, we're going on 50, 60 years of what this place has been, and long before me, and I get an opportunity to stand on the shoulders of those giants, and they continue to give back to this program, and Jim Crane's one of them. You know, he's been very generous in terms of what he's given to this program, and but so have the rest of our alumni and coaches. Coach Rogers, Stu Rogers, who was, you know, one of the founding fathers here, but Bob Tompkins as well. They continue to give back in this community, and a bunch of the players that have played in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s all come back and give. They give of their time, but they give of their resources, and this place is important to them and it impacted their lives. And so we have some of the things we have: the field, the clubhouse, the indoor, and it's all one-stop shop here. There's no question in terms of what you're doing or what you're intending to do. You know, you get to walk away from the classroom and walk away from school, and from the time you walk through the gate in the gravel parking lot here to the time you leave it, there's no question in terms of what you are and what you're trying to accomplish. And that's be the best version of yourself that you can be here. And that takes effort, that takes attitude, that takes intensity. And, you know, those are all things that I think are easy to have when you're in the right place with the right people. If it's pulling teeth, that's going to be tough. And as you said, it's going to be a job. But man, I've never worked a day in my life. It's a joy to be out here and to be with the people that I'm with, from the coaching staff on to the players that are here and that have been here. They make every day enjoyable because they truly care about doing that, about getting after it and being as good as they can possibly be on a daily basis. And you know as well as anybody how difficult that can be if you're in an environment that you don't believe in.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so important to be surrounded by like-minded people, and the successful programs, if you talk to 5 kids, they're all going to interact pretty much the same way. I mean, there's differences, but at the same time, and I think that is one thing, whether obviously I went to JUCO, you went to a JUCO. If you go talk to JUCO players, there's definitely a different mindsets at JUCO compared to if you go talk to kids from University of Oklahoma. And it's not that the kids of Oklahoma are not it's just it's different, and it's always
well,
interesting.
you know, when you don't have a junior college, there's still something to obtain. You're not at the end. You're not at the finish line. You're not even close. You know, you're depending on, like you're there for, well, and your situation was different. Like I wasn't mature enough physically, I wasn't mature enough academically, I wasn't mature enough probably skill wise in the baseball field to be anywhere else but a junior college. So I had to catch up, and there's someplace else to be unless you want your career to be over in a year or two. So, there's someplace else to go to school still, and you still got a goal there, and you're fighting for everything you got. And as a junior college coach, and I coached at Hutch for 10 years, there's because of that carrot, you can do some different things. And you can push a little bit harder, you can grind a little bit more, you can spend a little bit more time. And those, there's things that you don't get that you relish when you're in junior college. You can tell junior college players because as soon as they get stuff, they put their name on it right away, because they know exactly what the possibility of something happening to it is if they're somewhere else. So, those guys appreciate everything they get, and they know what they haven't had, and they are excited about getting stuff that they didn't get when they were at their JUCO. And they're holding on to T-shirts they got their freshman year that are, damn near ready to fall apart and threadbare, but that means something to them because they know they're not getting another one, whenever they want one at University of Oklahoma or whatever university that some other guy may have attended.
No, that's as soon as you said, absolutely. I mean, I remember I was at Merrimack and then I went to SLU, and it's not like we had a lot of resources at SLU compared to some of the other ones, but as soon as I got it, I wrote my name on it because I'm like, JUCO, you're still taking care of the field, you're still traveling on vans, you're still like, it's a different world, and I think it does make you appreciate, because once you go to the D1 level, I remember some of the guys that were D1 out of high school complaining, and I'm like, what are you complaining about? Like, you got to put the tarp on. It's funny, but so your coaching philosophy, obviously, you talked about a little bit when you were at Hutch compared to Central Missouri. Has it evolved over time, or has it been pretty consistent?
I would say it's evolved. I think I hope it has, I hope I've grown over, the last 10 years or so, I don't know that it's changed, but I'd like to say that it's evolved. But I also, there are certain things that I just will always be with the personality in terms of aggression and in terms of how we want to do things. That you can define, like we offensively, like we really like to run. And I think that'll always, I'll be honest, like I get bored if we don't. So just personality wise, like I get you can hit a 3-run home run, but I'm like sitting around in the box and waiting for that to happen. It's just so boring. So up until the guy, decides to do it, we're going to do some other things first. And, and if you want to hit a 3-run home run, awesome. I'll give you a high five on the way around, just like I would anybody else. But up until that point, we're going to try to short game, and we're going to try to steal bases, and we're going to try to take an extra 90 feet any way we can. And we're going to work on those things. And I think probably the greatest area of maturity or growth that maybe I've had is I think that mindset still remains, but I want to make sure I do it and offer my players the best opportunity to have success doing it. There are years that, where it almost didn't matter what the situation was. We were going. And that's a benefit too. And there's a personality there, but there's probably some times where I ran us out of some innings or some games that I probably should have exercised a little bit more thought at least. And I hope that I've grown in that regard and made some better decisions and maybe cooled my jets a little bit on some aggression, and maybe turned it up in other areas and looked for other avenues that we can be good in. But I think overall, the methodology maybe has changed a little bit, but I think overall the gameplay and the attempt to be a complete team is pretty similar, I'd like to say.
Yeah, and that's you are who you are, and you can refine that and get better within that. But I think when young coaches start to mimic other coaches or trying to be what they're not, you can't do it for any length of time. Like and that's obviously I'm older, so I've seen a lot of coaches coming in. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to do it like this or do it like that," and I'm like, if you're not you, it's not going to last very long. It has to be authentic. Otherwise, the players see it. I mean, I played for enough coaches that I know when someone's teaching a YouTube video, like the amount of coaches, and there's nothing wrong with getting some new information, but there's a lot of coaches that just want to mimic what's on that YouTube video, and they don't even know why. And the video, and I'm sorry if you love this video, but the bunters catching the ball in a lacrosse stick, I've seen that video posted 8,000. Every time I see it, I want to grab a lacrosse stick and beat someone. It's just me. I'm sorry if you love the lacrosse stick drill, but oh my gosh.
It doesn't offend me a bit. Again, like you said, no offense to anybody that's done it. I just, and there are so many different ways. The longer I'm in this, the more I know I don't know anything. Also, like, I guess to some degree or another, I coach to my personality, because one of the things that I believe in is you can do a lot and do it really well.
Yeah.
And not overcomplicate, not get lost in the minutia of every different mechanic that exists to teach a skill, but continue to work on the skill over and over and over again, and until you as an individual dominate that. And will we come at it from a bunch of different ways if we need to? But sometimes the best way is straight through, and just keep taking ground balls until you get it figured out. Keep bunting until you get it figured out. Keep throwing, from the mound until you figure it out. And I know that's oversimplifying, and that's not all that we do. We don't just do that, but I mean, there's some real value in taking whatever the obstacle or the job is and doing it and continuing to do it over and over and over and over again until you get great at it. And I really appreciate. I've never played football. I wish I did, but I really appreciate the old 80s and 90s Nebraska Cornhusker teams that were going to run the option and told everybody they're going to run the option. We're not changing for any of you. This is what we're going to do. Stop us. And if you can stop us, good for you. You win the game. And if not, we'll win. And I feel a little bit the same about how we go about doing our thing. And that's, I think if you can teach guys to be really good at what they're doing and believe in it, and, wrap their arms around the concept of it, and not try to complicate it with any extracurricular tools or things, I think you have a shot at creating a pretty good baseball player that's fundamentally sound in what he's doing. And, if he's lucky enough to get an opportunity to play at the next level, have a real strong foundation for growth moving forward.
No, to simplify things, baseball's a tough game. There's a lot of things, and people get caught up in overthinking. You're not hitting, so all of a sudden, let's change your whole stance and start over. That's a recipe for a long path back to success. To take more swings and just refine is a much shorter path, because to me, there's a way your body moves naturally, and to revamp that and try to change it and be like, okay, change your arm slot, change this, change it. That's a very thin line of destruction and success. And I think a lot of coaches, especially coaches that don't know, they overcoach. And I've seen it with youth hitters where they go to this hitting coach and the coach is trying to change everything. And then the kid has no idea. He's thinking so much he can't hit the ball. It's not fun. The kid quits playing. It's just, keep it simple to me is absolutely essential when you're coaching.
Sure. Well, and you know well enough. I mean, again, way better than me. I do believe there are certain foundational things that have to happen in a swing, for instance, or taking a ball or throwing a ball off the mound. And if somebody is lacking there, then okay, let's attack that and let's find some actionable drills that can help you be better at what those things are, and let's keep doing it. And even those are going to take time to adjust to. And, it's gonna take some time. With the advent of Driveline and a bunch of other development places, I think they have really brought about some really valuable knowledge that were blind spots for all of us. We should be incredibly thankful for those things, and we should always look and be curious about what else is out there. But then applying it to a player who's trying to compete and trying to win a job, we also need to be, I think, mindful of when we're doing those things. Yeah. You can send a player into purgatory really quick if you make some massive changes. And, don't forget that kid's competing against another 18 to 23-year-old at the same spot, at least in college. And you can send him down a path that he doesn't, once he loses a feel for the old and he doesn't have a feel for the new, That's
Yeah.
a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
Whether you were right about what you were saying or not, you know.
It's I agree. There's a time to adjust, and like you're the insights that the technology and the analytics give you is great. I'm all for being able to look at the rotational acceleration or look at the release point and different things, but you have to understand how to then apply that to the player and when to do it, because doing it in between innings, having a kid start talking about mechanics in between innings is not going to lead to a lot of success from my experience.
No, I think my experience too, recipe for disaster. It's maybe the wrong time. And I mean, if you're doing it with a kid that's 12 that just isn't strong enough yet, then we're missing the bigger thing, right? He's just not strong enough yet. So you can talk about all the things you want to, but until he's strong enough to swing it the right way or throw it the right way, we're probably doing too much, as you said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, strength matters. I call the puberty is the great equalizer. So it's like, and you see it when your kids go through, but 5th, 6th, 7th grade, some of those kids hit puberty and you can't mimic what they're doing. And I think that was a frustrating part. Some of those kids that were having success, I would be like, hey, if you don't change how you're throwing, because they're dropping down, you're putting a lot of pressure on your elbow, you're going to tear your elbow up if you don't get the mechanics right. But they're having so much success that the parents and the kids are like, no, I'm doing it this way. And then you see it happen, and it's just a frustrating process where I'm like, that could have been prevented, but they are worried more about winning the tournament at 12U than, hey, how can I have the fundamentals down to where when I'm 16, 17, I can repeat, and it's simple, as opposed to just I'm forcing it when I'm in middle school. And as well as the higher you go, the more simple you can keep your actions, the less movement, the more it's repeatable, the more success you have. And I mean, I think that's the key for any players. How efficient can you be with your body movement so that when you get higher up, it's a simple movement that's repeatable.
Yeah, consistency, right? Like, what's the difference between a guy that's employed and not, and it's consistently producing? And like, I don't think talent's going to separate anybody in professional baseball, or really even at our level. It's how consistently you're going to be able to perform at your talent level over and over again. And the simpler the movement and the more foundational your movements are, the more efficient you are, the more often you can repeat it, right? Repeatability, and you're off to the races with something. And again, I know this game is complex and it's difficult and it's hard. And as coaches, I think sometimes we lose sight of how hard this game is. I'm a way better player now than I was when I was playing, and I'm sure that's in my own head. It was hard. It was hard when I played, and I wasn't good enough to play at a place like this. One
of the things I'm curious about, because you're talking about talent separates, but when you get to a certain level, whether it's D2, D1 professionally, talent doesn't. It's tough to separate from a talent standpoint. So what are some of the things, how does a player separate? Is it the mental side? Is it coachability? Like, what's your assessment of that?
I think there's a couple things. I think, maturity, you talked about purity in terms of like being a great equalizer physically, but I think also there's a maturity that guys typically in college tend to take steps towards being successful here when talent is equal across the board. Do they have routines that they can rely on? Do they have preparation that, again, they can believe in, that will give them confidence to continue to perform at a consistent level? Do they prioritize correctly? We're still at our level, we're still student athletes, and we're not pretending. These guys are getting degrees and they're going on to do things professionally that 99% of the time aren't baseball, or 95% of the time maybe aren't baseball. And, as a student athlete here, we demand that our players do the things that they're doing here well, no matter what it is. So on the field, yes, we want you to be the best baseball player you can be. Well, off the field in the classroom, you better be the best student athlete you can be too. Those are habits. And so I think prioritization is a big deal. And guys that prioritize the classroom don't carry the weight of being a poor student onto the field. Because if you're not doing well in a class, I don't care who you are, unless you're Barry Bonds, I don't think you can separate that stress from the field. And those things start to play a role in your ability to perform. And we talked about consistency and the efficiency of movement and how to become consistent. And I think consistency of priorities and routines and habits that allow you to have success in the classroom and allow you to have success on the field are things that you grow with and you have. And the more mature you become, the more you realize what yours are as an individual, because yours may be different than mine, may be different than Grant's, may be different than whoever. And you start to really embrace those and make those things important to you. And you see people, I think, guys that have, and I mean, they're classics. You're like, I mean, Kobe's famous for it, right? And there's guys that are famous for what their preparation is. And it's because they knew that's what put them in a position to be as good as they could possibly be. And then they did it over and over and over again, forever. And that's, I think that's what separates guys, is the understanding and then the accumulation of those habits and those priorities, and then implementing them and not getting tired of it. And then it's about the word you used, refining them. I'm going to keep doing these things, but I'm going to add this, or maybe I'm going to take this away because I don't need to do it anymore. And it's always on a path to try to become just a little bit better with everything that you're doing. And the guys that recognize that and prioritize things and are aware of the mental things that they're saying to themselves, and the routines that they're in, and what time they're going to sleep and what time they're waking up, and how much water they're drinking, and all those things go into percentages in terms of how they perform too. And if I'm at 80% and you're at 60 and our talent's the same, there you are. So I think those things have a lot to do with it, especially at the college level.
And I mean, I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits. I teach it in my class. To create healthy habits, to me, excellence is it's not compartmentalized. You can't be excellent at baseball and then be horrible at class, horrible at relationships, horrible. Like, those things, to me, take pride in who you are, and who you are is who you are everywhere. It's just not, I'm excellent on the field, but I'm going to be lazy in the classroom, lazy with study. Like, the most successful people I've ever seen is like Kobe, you're talking about. When he got done playing, he was pursuing excellence in other things, writing books, and he didn't stop being excellent. He just stopped being excellent at basketball. That mindset was excellence in everything. And any successful athlete, you're a high school kid watching this now, listen, like, start taking your preparation serious, start getting into routines that help you, start getting the sleep and the hydration. All those things matter. Get in the weight room consistently. Lifting hard for 1 week and being intense for a week is not as important as being consistent for a year. And all those lessons are the ones that you can hear the information, not do anything with it, and you just wasted time. So try to implement the things you're hearing here. This is a very successful D2 program, college program, and you're going to hear the same thing, whether it's D1, professional, or just someone that's a president of a company. They're all going to say the same thing. You have to create healthy habits and live them. So do you have any books that have had kind of foundational, or any coaches, anything that all of us, when you're coaching, I know you're always looking for ways to get better. Are there the kind of foundational books or people that have kind of poured into you along the way?
Sure. I think first and foremost, I was really, really lucky to start my coaching career under with a couple of people that are, in my opinion, legends. But John Cohen, Sean McCann, Bill Wright, they were at Northwestern State. And I got a chance to spend 1.5 years with them. And then I spent a couple of years with a guy named Andy Sawyers at Hutch before I took over. And they were so good to me in terms of sharing information and their hows and their whys, and allowing me to be a part of their programs. They're already very successful. And they allowed me to be curious, and they allowed me to ask questions and to, experiment with some things on my own when they gave me that latitude. And then now, certainly, I really love reading. I'm an incredibly slow reader. So it sucks to say, but it takes me forever, but I love it. I really enjoy it. And, coaches that have impacted me through book, the What Drives Winning series always evokes thought in me. I really enjoy its premise. And I try to go back to that a lot. And as you mentioned, Atomic Habits is a great book. I think it should be like a must read for almost anybody that's trying to accomplish anything, that's looking for a path. I think The Compound Effect is a tremendous book. This is going to sound kind of cliche anymore, but I love podcasts. I think the Extreme Ownership is a great book for any, young man or young woman trying to actualize their dreams and understanding, how responsible they are for all their actions. And then there are other things that I think, depending on what your personality is, will grab your attention. For me, Coach Back is actually my assistant coach, recruiting coordinator. He turned me on to a book called The Man Watching. It's about Anson Dorrance, who was the University of North Carolina women's soccer coach. He started the program and coached until I think last year was his last year. So I think 40 plus years. It's the most successful program that nobody knows about. That's 26 or 27 national titles. His story, his book, and his personality and the way he went about things is really impactful to me. In a lot of ways, confirmation bias, but in a lot of other ways, it's like a different way of thinking about things. So those are some of the things that have impacted me. Really, I am very impacted by people and conversations too. So this conversation with you impacts me. And I'll take something away from it that I think, I'll carry with me and use, whether it's verbiage or, thought processes or whatever. There are so many programs we can look at, and Gutton's longevity. I've asked him questions and he's been great, and I know he's since retired, but I've learned so much from so many people that have been kind enough to share, some of the things they're thinking or doing. And I will try to, I hope I'm always curious about things. But those guys that helped give me my start, I just, they didn't have to. They didn't have to give me an opportunity to get a chance to work with their programs or to be a part of their programs, and they did. And they invited me in, and those, as I have like I said, very lucky, blessed to have this program. I'm pretty insular with it. I get pretty protective of what this environment is. And I love the people here and what this place is. And it's really important to me. And I recognize how much trust it took for those guys to invite me into what their environment was. And so I'm very thankful to them.
So yeah, it's amazing. Everyone's journey, you meet people, they add to it. I think you're going to get out of what you put into it. Like whether it's a podcast, a book, whatever, people can read a book and nothing. But when you're looking for those things to help improve who you are, you're going to find it. There's opportunities everywhere. And so I did want to ask, like, people watching that want to hear more about your program or players that are interested, what's the best way to kind of get on your radar? Do you have camps? Do you do coaches clinics at all? Anything like that?
Yeah, we do actually. I'm glad you asked. Most of our camps for high school age players happen in the summer. And we schedule them around what the travel ball schedule is, because I know that's tough. So we typically have them on Mondays or Tuesdays. And we have 3 or 4 of them throughout the course of the summer. And we do a significant amount of recruiting out of those camps. We run tournaments at our field. We still have tournaments at our field. And it's been quite affected, I think, just by the presence of all the massive tournament fields that have been growing in Kansas City. So between Creekside and home field, a ton of people go up there and play. So we'll drive an hour and a half to go up there and play. And we do a coaches clinic every fall. This fall on October 6th, I believe, was our coaches clinic. And we invite, we had a great clinic this past year. I think we had 80 or 90 high school coaches attend. But any coach from any level is welcome. We had speakers. We had Coach Lallemand from Crowder, you mentioned. We had Coach Goldbeck from KCK, who came to speak. I spoke a little bit, and just another opportunity to share information and learn, and hopefully pour back into the somewhat immediate area and teach some things that we think are valuable to be taught, lessons. And I think for the most part, Coach Backus, myself, Coach McFadden are pretty accessible, through email, texting. All of our numbers are public, and they're on the website. You can get in touch with me whenever, and if you want to, I suppose. But I think we love talking about it. One of the common threads in I think our coaching staff and in our culture is we're really enjoy talking about the game and growing ourselves through it, and having conversations that involve the people that are involved in it, and how we can grow ourselves in our program and improve it in any way, shape, and form. And if there's anybody else that thinks that I can help them in any way, or that we can as a coaching staff, I think we always look forward to those opportunities.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, if you ever go up to Creekside and play, I mean, it is, when you're coming back towards St. Louis, which I'm guessing most people watching are coming back this way, it's about an hour and a half from Creekside. It's It's in Warrensburg. It's a beautiful facility. Like, the only reason I went there was because my son was playing on the field, which to me, I wish travel teams, that's how they did their summers. Like, go play at Mizzou, go play at Central Missouri, go play it. That way you can see the field, you can see the facility. You're staying in the town, you get a better feel for what it's like than just go to Creekside, go to Grand Park, go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, to me, it's a waste of money. It is a tremendous waste of money to spend a week in Atlanta playing a game a day when you could go to Central Missouri, get on the field, be right in front of the coaches, be in the environment. And you parents are like, well, how do you do that? Well, tell your clubs that's what you want to do because you're the one paying. And
that's right. You're the customer,
Yeah.
and it's that part of the world our world anyway, I mean, it is what it is, and it's been this way for the last 20 years now. Travel baseball isn't new, but over the course of the time that it's existed, it really has changed in terms of not just that it exists now, but that they've created their own places to go play at. Which, again, awesome. Go play, showcase your abilities, and so on. But and the coaches will be there. We'll be there. We're going to go watch. We're going to go watch the scout team play. We're going to go watch your son play. We're going to go watch Grant Hollister play. I'm going to go watch Nick Gibbler compete his tail off and his talented brother go throw a bunch of sliders and get people out. Like, that's fun. And we're going to go do that. I think not that you asked for this, but if I was giving advice though about travel baseball, because it's there and because, like, my son didn't play travel baseball. He played for his we started an American Legion baseball team back here in Warrensburg. So we took part in it as a family. So we didn't do the other things. Because I feel like if I'm going to speak in a certain way, I need to act a certain way. And for me and for us, that was important, and there's all kinds of mitigating factors, my wife's health and a bunch of other things. But, as you said, I'm not going to drive down to Atlanta. I can't, that's not something that I think it's worth my time recruiting. Not that there aren't great players there are, but there are also great players in Kansas City and St. Louis that are right here. So we're going to stay here on I-70 and go recruit the best talent that we can in the state of Missouri and go from there. And my kid played Legion baseball, and he played on my field, and then he played locally and in the area. And I do believe old things ring true and are cliche, but they're cliche for a reason because they stick. And if you're good enough, they'll find you. If you play, they'll find you. If you play the right way, they'll find you. And people, again, if you're your own walking advertisement for who you are and what you are and how you do it. And when you show up to the yard, if you show up and you're about business, then you're about business and you're about getting your work done. And that's easy to see when people walk into the yard. And if somebody sees that, I don't even have to be there. I'm going to find out. This world is too small in terms of the baseball world, even as much as it's grown, for us not to know those things. And if there's a good player that cares about what he is and how he's competing, we're going to find out, we're going to go see him. And we may not see everybody, but there's a ton of great players around here that are worth doing that. And I wish that those travel teams came here more. I do. And I wish we had a chance to host them but I'll tell you what, there's that Royal Scout team has been really good to us. And I feel like we've been really good to them. We've had a lot of those players play on our teams, and they've acquitted themselves really well and been great mules when they've been here. And, we're certainly thankful for the opportunity to have Coach Bailey and his group out every year and get a chance to get to know them and learn from them. Shoot, Coach Bailey and Coach Bush have poured into me as much as, I've ever been able to help anybody else. Coach Bush is still here, he's still helping. Yeah, he's awesome. The guy's the quirkiest, best infield coach I've ever known in my life. And man, he pours into these kids, drives an hour every day to come down here and help them, and is so good at what he does. And I'm so fortunate to have him and to have had his kids. And so
I know Coach Schnurbush was one of Ty's favorite coaches he ever played for. He loved Coach Bailey, but Coach Schnurbush, and that's it. We're sorry, coughing. That last 3 minutes that you just talked, I wish I could send out to every parent and high school player, because it's the same thing I've been trying to get across. Most kids are going to stay within this region with baseball. To
Yeah.
go to Atlanta to be seen by teams that are not going to give you scholarships instead of take your club to Central Missouri to one of the top D2 programs in the nation. Why in the world would you not do that? I mean, it baffles me. I know you talked about you have to be who you are. Your son played American Legion, stayed home, played locally. I mean, I don't even know if you know, but I only let my son play in 4 showcases or 4 times over the summer with the Royal Scout team. He didn't play the whole schedule. He could play in 4 tournaments, and we'd pick out which 4. He would go to those 4, and that was it. And he ended up getting drafted out of high school. If you're good enough, they're going to find you. I mean, I think you may have seen. Yes, like you can play American Legion and go to PG, PBR, Scout Connect, whatever it is, get your numbers. And if your numbers jump off the page, someone's going to come see you. Like,
Yeah.
That's your job, is to find these guys. And I'm not sure why parents still think I have to invest $500 a weekend to go to these showcases to be seen, when you go to one and your numbers are there and you can send those numbers in a little video to some coaches. If they like it, they're going to follow up. But
I think metrics, again, those things have created the opportunity, but my son doesn't have great metrics. If you're really going to appreciate anything he does, you're probably gonna have to watch him play, a lot of games.
Yep.
If he doesn't catch your eye, that's okay. But again, that's again, the beauty being in the eye of the beholder, and I appreciate metrics as much as the next guy. I also appreciate the understanding of the game. And
yes.
Everybody's going to treat that differently. And I think technology has done a lot of things. And I think it's also provided the opportunity to not have to travel 1,500 miles to find a player that's from 30 miles down the road. So it doesn't make sense to me geographically. I don't love it, and if I had a hope for baseball moving forward, it would be that, okay, these travel ball teams, we know who the St. Louis travel ball teams are. The Rawlings Tigers from St. Louis and the St. Louis Gamers and whatever, all the ones that do a great job. And there's Kansas City ones too. That's great. But let's to me, I grew up playing against the high school teams that we played against, and we grew up playing against the Connie Mack teams at that level or the Legion programs, and that's who we wanted to beat all the time. And that's what it was. And we stayed in town and we played against every single team in town. And that's what we did. And if you were good enough, then okay, maybe you moved on to a regional or whatever. But at that place, so here in Warrensburg, I get it. We're a small town, but there's enough to play Legion here, Junior Legion, Senior Legion. They did it. And I thought it worked pretty well. And they competed at the state level to whatever degree. And the more of those teams that do it, the better it gets. And I don't know what you think about it, but travel baseball at this point in time is not a whole lot better than that. There's some teams that are the exception, no question. There's some really talented teams. But then I would say a large majority of the other travel ball teams are just like Legion baseball or Connie Mack baseball a few years ago. Not
even as good. And that's, I think, obviously you talk like the Royal Scout team, those are national level players. They're draftable players for the most part.
Yeah.
And there's other teams like that. But that's a 1% of those national teams. The rest of them, to me, you could save $10,000 a year and stay local. I mean, it's not rocket science to figure out this. If you just played it in Springfield, you went to Mizzou, you went to UCM, you went to Missouri Southern, you could do 6 of those tournaments within Missouri and be seen at schools that probably are going to see you, whether JUCOs are there, D2, D3, D1. You're going to be seen, and that's really where most kids end up anyway, and you're saving the travel. And that's where Jerry Daniels was on here. I don't know if you know Jerry, but that's what they did originally with the prospects was they would go play at universities, and that makes sense.
The prospects versus the sluggers in KC. Those were the 2 showcase teams, and they played each other at different schools, and we'd all go around. That was the very genesis of my coaching career, was watching those teams play. And as you said, the elite level talent that played there, in those programs, and for you guys and your son's experience with the Royal Scout team, that's what it was. And you knew what you were getting as a coach. You knew what you were recruiting. And there was only a couple of them, right? And that was that. So it's been what it's been. And I don't think the genie's out of the box and travel baseball is what it is. So, okay, that's fine. But, yeah, let's like geographically, like if you're from the KC area, let's stay in the KC area.
Yeah.
Let's play some teams from St. Louis. Let's play some teams from down south. And goodness, there's 40 plus junior colleges within 2 states between Missouri and Kansas. I don't know how many, like there's whatever, 16, 18 teams in the MIAA. I don't know how many teams are in the GLVC that are all in and around the region. Not to mention the Division I teams that are around there. You got another probably 40 four-year institutions at least. That's 80 schools that you can market yourself to that are within 2 states.
Yeah. And that's not even NAIA, like MOBAP. That's elite level
Right.
NAIA team. Like there's so many schools. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities, and it baffles me, especially with recruiting limitations now, where colleges can't even see kids at 13, 14, 15. Like, why are you playing 80? True story. Friday night, I was at a basketball game. One of my friends shows me his kid's 13U schedule. 15 weekends, and I think 8 of them were out of town. And I'm like, find a new team. Like, I can't. What are you doing? I don't know, and it's up to parents to set those boundaries and understand this is not my identity. This is what we do. We enjoy it, but this is where I draw the line. And somewhere around 40 games for a 13U kid is plenty.
Plenty.
I mean, and that's people always ask, like, because Ty was able to get. I never let him play more than 40 games in the summer ever, and he turned out okay. So different paths for different people, but
Sure.
it can be done.
I mean, no question. And I mean, this horse has been beat to death too, but like playing multiple sports is probably a good thing for a lot of people.
Yes.
If you got a bunch of coaches that want you to play different sports, you're probably doing something pretty right, and you're probably a pretty good athlete. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And it makes the games that you're playing, in terms of, if baseball's your choice, cool. I bet those 40 games or however many you're playing become way more special after a football season or after a basketball season. And you learn how to compete in a bunch of different arenas, and you're learning how to balance schoolwork, not just with baseball, but with other sports. And as you said, not everybody's the same. I get that, but it's never going to be that. We can't make it fair for everybody.
Yeah.
You play where I don't know. Beyond that, I think you give yourself the best opportunity that you possibly can by doing the work and by recognizing, I guess, what's feasible. And again, what you're willing to do, I suppose you're willing to do. So if you're a parent, you're willing to do those things, then okay, and more power to you. But at the end of the day, it'll be worth it or it won't. And
that's the thing. And actually, next week on here, I'm talking about identity, because it's the thing I'm seeing the most. Kids they're specializing in sports at 5, 6, 7U, and they identify, I'm an athlete. And then when sports are done at, whether it's at the junior high, end of high school, end of college, they haven't created any other skills outside of, I'm just an athlete. And the athletic career is going to be over for most people by the time you're in your early 20s. And if you only see yourself as an athlete, that's your identity. Every win and loss is going to hurt more. Every obstacle is going to be tougher. Like, have a life outside of sports. Sports is one thing you do. It's not the end all be all of who you are, because if it is, it's going to be a very tough transition when you're done playing. And I think too many kids I've seen the last 5 to 8 years, they're told at 6 years old, you're special, but they're only special on an athletic field, whether it's football, soccer, volleyball, whatever. And that's a dangerous path to go down. Yeah,
well, you also don't get a choice in terms of when you're done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not you. Somebody else is making that decision. And so,
Absolutely.
And like you said, it's at 20 years old or whatever it is, we would like to say that we're going to have another 3/4 of our life left to go live. So you're going to have to find something else to do. And I think sports, people talk about, sports revealing character in a lot of people. And I think that's true. I think that, I think it, in my case anyway, I became a better person when I was around the people I was in playing baseball.
Yeah.
It made me better. And if it's not, then I don't know if that's a great thing, and again, that takes perspective and some awareness. But if it's not making you better, and you're just doing it because, as you mentioned, that's your identity, I think that can create some problems there too. And I am by no means trying to play, armchair psychologist here at all, but Uh, I know it made me a better human, and I was less of a version of myself without my teammates, without my coaches, and without the structured environment of baseball. And
Yeah.
it benefited me, and it continues to give me a great deal. And I consider myself lucky to still be in this game.
Thanks, Coach, for coming on, sharing. I think if people know nothing about you before, your program before, it's definitely clear the passion when you speak about certain things. That's what your program's about, which obviously is why you've had so much success. So I hope this upcoming year you make it back to the World Series and win it this year.
Try not to forget that part of it. We've struggled with it the last couple of years.
It's a fun process, though. Each team, each year is a different group, and I'm sure this group coming back you're excited about and have the same goal of being the best you can be.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's what we were in control of, is trying to work to be as good as we could possibly be. And, we feel like, with the group of people that we have here and the kind of people that we have here from guy 1 to guy 50, if we can improve them and help them realize the best versions of themselves, right? Be disciplined, be relentless, be selfless, and learn how to serve others in that way. We can live with any of the results in what our locker room is. And we got a pretty talented locker room. So we feel like if we have a bunch of guys that are working towards doing that, the 50 guys in that locker room, we feel pretty good about what we'll be able to do. And it feels good about doing it. We feel good about doing it every day, and really, we really enjoy what we do, and the people we do it with. It leads us to people like you, right? You've had tremendous success just as a father, and congratulations to you, but certainly with this as well. And I love talking about the game and what it's given to me, and the people that have invested in me and allowed me to do something that I really enjoy doing. And I don't know what else I'd be doing if I didn't do this. But
yeah, well, I got about 2 more years of teaching, and then I'm trying to figure out how to stay connected to baseball, get back into baseball. It'll be 25, 26 years of teaching. I'm like, okay, now it's time to retire and go. I figure out how I'm going to stay attached, because I love the game. I love the development piece. I love developing kids off the field, on the field. And I mean, that's what, to me, coaching's about. Wins and losses are going to happen, so be it.
Yeah.
But the relationships you have after these kids move on, and to see their success as a parent, as a husband, that's the stuff that matters to me. And any coach that's been around any length of time, you know how special those phone calls are when, hey, I'm getting married or I had a kid. Like that's what makes it all worth it.
you're just growing, we're growing a tribe of people that we really care about, and that we feel like hopefully is going to go out and do good in this world. And thank you for teaching for as long as you have. And it's, that's different. And I think it's harder, and it's underappreciated. It's like being a first responder anymore. I think you're really, really, you put yourself at the ground floor of where it matters the most in terms of impact on people and what they grow up to be. And we get the back end of it. And certainly parents have probably the greatest say in what happens with their children. But if, second only to parents, it's probably teachers, and teachers at an age that go, all the way up through high school. And it's not easy. I can't imagine the challenges that exist, and I'm so appreciative of the ones that really invest in their students still and care about their development.
Well, and before I was a teacher, I worked for FCA. I was in ministry, and to me, I was like, the best ministry that I can possibly do is be a teacher, because those are the kids that come from backgrounds that need more love and more support, and you can't build those relationships if you're not in front of them. And that's been my ministry since I started teaching, and I carried out to the baseball field. And that is my why. Going back to another book, Simon Sinek, What's Your Why? I mean, that's what I do. But any parents, any player, get out this spring, because I know there are some misconceptions about like what D2 baseball. Go to Warrensburg and watch a game. Look up their schedule. Go watch D2 baseball, and I think you're going to be shocked with the level of talent, because it is legit. These guys can play. They're well coached, and it's a shame that people don't look at D2 the same way they look at, I'm going to go to Mizzou and watch a game. I'm telling you now, go to Warrensburg, go to that stadium, watch them play. You're going to be impressed with what you see 100%. And as you go through this recruiting process, look at all the options and try to find the best fit for you. And if you're interested in Central Missouri, get out to those camps in the summer. On the way back from Creekside, stay in Warrensburg for a night. There's a nice Walmart right there, and Applebee's.
Yeah. No, I'd recommend some local places. Fitters and Heroes. Come see Jay. Come see Stacy Fitter and Old Barney's. But no, I appreciate the kind words, and we love the level we're at. I think this is true amateur sports. Kids are getting an education, and they're getting an education on the field and off the field. And I think growing as people, hopefully, and certainly helping grow me. And if you come watch a game, what I think you'll see is people that are rowing the boat in the same direction, that really care about each other. And I think it's an enjoyable thing to watch. Watch guys compete for each other. And I sure hope that that's what you walk away at least seeing when we play. And I can't guarantee the result, but I think I can be pretty confident in saying that the guys that are in our uniform are going to represent the uniform in that way. And certainly thankful to you for having me on and letting us talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, I'm going to come out. I want to see Grant play. I didn't get a chance to see him play last year because I ended up coaching, but I definitely will be out this year to watch him. I got to catch up with his mom, one of the more.
She's awesome. She's awesome. She is awesome. Hey, if you want more fun, come watch him practice. That's an impressive sight. To practice is my game, and games are for them. And goodness gracious, it's fun to have guys like him practice. They just get after it, and that's what a blessing that is to have. We do it twice as many times as we play, and you're more than welcome anytime. Our gates are always open. Come on by whenever you want. But you won't get Sarah unless it's a game, probably.
Oh. So she might be at practice. You just tell me when you're doing bunting. I just want to see how you teach that, because to me that's the most undervalued part of baseball, is the ability to do that. And it sounds like that's part of your game. So
we do like to do it. Coach Backus would tell you it's right here. It's in your heart.
There's a lot to that. We'll have to have that conversation another time. I'll be here another hour talking about bunting with you. But you guys watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, please push the like. And definitely, if you have kids that are going through the recruiting process, they're in middle school, they're trying to figure out what college baseball looks like, any of the stuff that they need to hear. I mean, you're hearing it from a top D2 program. You're hearing it from an unbelievably successful coach. Like, you don't win 75% of your games on accident. So share this with other people. I appreciate you watching. Next week, we'll be on with some of the guys from FCA, some coaches, just talking about identity as we get into Christmas and trying to figure out just where to kind of draw some boundaries with sports. I mean, it's been a lot to us. We love sports, but it's only a part of who you are. So just a reminder in that way. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for watching.